This trip to Brazil was very interesting. Angelica and I had an opportunity to travel a little bit earlier so that we can get acclimated to the city. I was not expecting for the city to look the way it did. When we got there, we were expecting a lot more greenery because, you know, when you go to Brazil, you expect to see a lot of green. But we didn't know that Brasilia was actually like a manufactured capital of Brazil. It wasn't the original capital. It kind of got moved there, and it's like an entire man-made, like planned from the ground up city. So you can tell that the infrastructure is very design oriented. So it kind of almost feels like one of those weird movies, you know, where like the government takes over and then it's like post-apocalyptic and you walk the streets and there's not really sidewalks. It's all just a bunch of roads, you know. Brasilia felt like that. But the first couple of days, me and Angelica, we just got to train. We arrived like 2 to 3 days earlier than most people, and we kind of had our own Airbnb that we were waiting to share with a couple of other USA teammates who were flying in a little bit later. I think it was very advantageous. I think traveling to these trips a little bit early is always beneficial, especially considering that you're not used to the area, you're not used to the weather. Maybe in this race in particular, maybe there's a little bit of altitude. You never know, right? So being able to kind of get that advantage of showing up a couple days earlier is never going to harm you. I got to do a couple of workouts, a couple of speed sessions, and I felt really good. I felt really good other than just trying to get used to the humidity. I think the temperature is something that the video can't really show or explain. It just feels like you're walking through hot air and like somebody dipped you into a bucket of lotion, basically. You're just always sweating. But there were points when the weather was very friendly. A lot of the times we were kind of just going back and forth to the same park. And our training was very similar, but the park was kind of like about a mile away from the hotel that we were staying. And before even knowing it, I didn't even realize that the Airbnb that we booked was actually 1 block away from the host hotel of where we were going to stay. So when it came to making that transition between the Airbnb, this owl.
Hi, bud.
What an omen. This owl, I feel like, is such like a good omen for like how this trip went.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, this was a super random.
Hell no.
This was a super random rainy day.
What the fuck?
It was really bad because when it started raining, the cars started zooming by, and they're all speeding in Brazil. So it's like they were hitting the water and splashing us with a bunch of like sewage water. It was super nasty. So excuse my language, but that was super gross. I think a car drove by us going like 50 or 60 and completely soaked us in gutter water. But like I was saying, we were going back and forth to the exact same park, and our hotel, this was the Meet Hotel, it was about a block away from where we were staying in our Airbnb. So when it came time to transition over to the Meet Hotel, you know, that's when you're required to start wearing Team USA gear day in and day out because you're on a USATF trip. But it was pretty cool because, I mean, like you always have to kind of go to those host hotels when the actual USA trip begins. But before that, we were able to really get our own personal experience of what the city felt like. So that was kind of cool. Really nice hotel, by the way. Very nice. So when everybody else showed up, that was a really cool experience because then I think it kind of felt a little bit more official. When all the athletes start showing up to the hotel, then people in the city kind of start to turn heads and they're like, oh, like, you know, like what's going on? It must be like a really big deal. And you get to tell them that you're traveling and you're representing Team USA and that you're basically a professional athlete and you're here to compete. It's still very strange because I think these teams, you have to really lean into them. They can be very high in intensity, especially for some of the people who have never been on a USA team before. It can be very overwhelming to travel all the way around the world and to just kind of be thrown into this very elite atmosphere. Even some of the best athletes that I know still don't know how to get into this mindset where you're just kind of like how do you bring everything that you've done in training into like the highest levels of competition, right? While also trying to sightsee and just enjoy the trip, right? Because it's a really mixed emotion where you're just like, man, like I'm really trying to enjoy being in Brazil, but you're also here to get work done, you know? And that's kind of where it can be a little bit intense, because how do you go and experience the trip to the maximum of your abilities while also not spoiling it for yourself, you know? You put in a lot of training and you have to bring that to a completely new place. So I'm always grateful for those experiences. I feel like that's kind of like the subject of what this trip was about, is the concept of like mastery. And in my opinion, mastery looks like knowing yourself. It looks like learning yourself more and more through practice, knowing what your weaknesses are, what your strengths, and being able to take that, pick it up, and activate it on the drop of a dime. Like when somebody asks you, can you perform on this weekend? That's what mastery looks like, is being able to take yourself and put yourself into an atmosphere where there are a lot of unknown variables and still be able to bring that intensity and bring that natural magic that you personally bring, because not every athlete is the same and you have to bring something different to the table. I think that's something that goes over a lot of people's heads, is that, you know, as an athlete, you're trying to ask the best athletes, like, what do you do? How do I become more like you? How do I master this sport? And I think where people get messed up is they try to lean in too much into what other people are doing, and it's not like a cookie cutter shape process. You don't want to be...
All right, we're all done with our workout. So now it's time to go freshen up and get some breakfast.
But you don't want to be what other people are being. That's kind of what makes athletics really special, is that the times are all universal, and the times can be very reflective across the board. Like, you can walk the same time as your competitor, but you can't do it in the same way. Here, like, for example, here I'm making phone calls to friends on the day before the race because I'm trying to make it as relaxing as possible. And that's my way of bringing home to these competitions. I wish that more people helped younger athletes to kind of understand this concept, that the best athletes are the ones that stay true to themselves, that the best athletes are the ones that lean into what makes them great, that lean into the things that got them here to begin with. And instead of like telling you, oh, like this is the right or this is the wrong way, posing that question to an athlete, to a younger athlete, what do you think is the right way to do this? What do you believe is going to help you to perform to the best of your abilities? Because it's very easy for a coach to look at a younger athlete and be like, hey, like, this is what the pros are doing. We should be doing this. Like, logistically, there are always going to be moments where you can improve technical things in training, like form, technique, speed, schedule, hard workouts, slow workouts, paces, right? These are all numbers. The cops got mad because you're not allowed to be on the sign here. But to be able to help guide an athlete to understand that their uniqueness is the best thing, that's how you bring out the best in an athlete.
Good morning! We're all done with our trip to Brazil. Today's our last day. We're flying out, and we thought we'd end it on a good note by going to the cathedral, which I can already see. We could literally just walk there. Look, I can see it from here. But first we're gonna go get an acai bowl. Angelica, what was your favorite part about this trip?
That's a great question. I enjoyed spending time in our Airbnb and getting to know each other better, like including Jordan and Bryson. And I also really enjoyed training.
That's good.
Yeah, I thought that was fun.
Would you ever revisit the city?
No, there's nothing to do here. It was definitely perfect for the event, and that's it.
I feel the same way. Yeah, it was cool. It's cool. It's cool showing up early because then you get to like be a little bit more free about like what you want to do, how you want to do it, but the city is very not, I don't know how to say it. It doesn't feel like Brazil. So when we came here, I was kind of expecting more green and stuff. And honestly, I feel like San Diego is a little bit more green than this city. So
I think San Diego looks more like Brazil than Brasilia looks like Brazil.
yeah, the forced capital. It's a bunch of hotels. So we're gonna go check out this church. Maybe get a bowl of acai, genuine Brazilian acai bowl, and then I'm gonna head to the airport soon enough. All right.
Bro, but how many milliliters?
It's a lot, yo.
Bro, there's a viewfinder.
Okay, we're trying genuine acai from Brazil. It's even called acai official. Look at this big ass cup. I can't finish this. We're literally gonna have to walk to the church.
Wow.
This is good for recovery. High in antioxidants. You can taste the antioxidants. It's not sweet.
Wow, it's not sweet.
That's how it's supposed
I
to
was
taste.
expecting like pure sugar like it is in the States. Wow.
Phenomenal. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
For the rest of this trip, we got to go explore the rest of Brazil. Ironically enough, the day that we actually got to walk around the city was after everything was done. We didn't even get the opportunity to do this before when we arrived early because, you know, you don't want to be burning out your legs before the race. So we really saved that for the last day, and we saved getting the desserts for the last day. And we got to see a little bit of like the famous areas that the race was being hosted around. Ironically, when we got there, everything was closed. I don't know why. This was the race course after everything was done. They were pulling things down apart like so quickly. And this was the church that the course was walking around. So that was pretty cool that, you know, in our own decision, we're able to still go and see these things so that we can enjoy the trip and not just be so race oriented. You know, you have to remember to stay grounded in humanity as you are making these trips, because the chances of you being able to come back to these places are slim to none. The chances of them being rehosted in the same city are also really slim. So you got to make sure that whether you have a good race or a bad race, you go and you enjoy these things, because you might not ever come back, and you don't want a bad racing experience to ruin these moments for yourself, because then you start to correlate like what you do with like traumatic experiences, you know, and like you just have bad memories of traveling because they're so linked into your performance, and you don't want to do that. You want to remember of all the things that got you here and to still be grateful for a few of the small things that you get to do around the city. So I'm really glad that I got to make this trip with Angelica. I got to know her a lot better. I think that her mindset is really cool. It really lines up with mine too. We both want to be great. Everybody wants to improve, but you know, being able to bounce ideas off of each other. And this is the same owl we got to see at the end of the trip. Just giving us like a good little sign that the trip was closed, you know. It's funny, we saw him on the first day and the last day. So thank you guys for watching this video, as always, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace out. Bye-bye.